Welcome, class. Gonna teach you how to jam guitar fast. JamGuitarFast.com. This is where, in these trainings, here's the problem. That either you're at a level and you're doing okay and you're playing songs around town and somebody asks you to transcribe a song and you don't know how because you're tied to the capo. And maybe you're writing songs and saying, oh, play A minor with the capo on the 3rd fret. And that's your relationship to the chords. And so you can't really communicate with any other instrument, like a keyboard player. They don't know what you're saying, and they have to transcribe it. So I want to teach you not only how to transcribe every song. So the possibility here is that you'll know exactly, instantly, pick up a guitar, how you can see the patterns and the shapes on a guitar that are movable, and how you can use the guitar as the most amazing tool for songwriting, because you can transcribe to any key. If you're playing with a singer or another instrument that wants to play in a different key, you instantly know how to do it without the crutch of a capo, although you could use it. But I'll show you how to get all around the fretboard without using this, and how to understand what you're doing, because then it's going to unlock a whole another depth of creative expression and possibility for you with some different understandings and reference points that we'll be dropping on the whiteboard here. So, you ready? Are you ready? I covered tuning in some other videos that will be linked next to here. So tuning, there's different ways to tune. I feel like it's important to talk about that, because none of this sounds any good if it's not somewhat in tune. And you can tune to your voice, you can tune to nature, I like to go out in nature oftentimes and sing and find a tone, and you can like tune up or down to your voice. I personally like that the best, like in a river stream, toning, and then find a string that's close to that tone, and then tune to that. That's the beauty with strings versus like a piano. It's much easier to just change the tuning really, really fast on the fly to anything. I'll also show you how to use the guitar as a bridge between the worlds of bass and ukulele, and those guitar leles. It's kind of like a guitar with a capo on the 5th fret. I'll show you movable chord shapes, and you'll understand scales enough that you'll know how they all piece together. You'll also learn how to chart songs. I'll be teaching you the Nashville numbers system. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and I find it just such an honor to be in Bali, Indonesia, and teach you the Nashville numbers system. It's a really cool system that's going to help you have a new relationship whenever you're thinking of chords to a song, a chord progression, that will give you a greater depth of insight of how you can relate with what you're playing. So, I think first, we're going to talk about the major scale. And, we can talk about notes. The notes. What are the notes? Down here we've got the chromatic scale. This is the musical alphabet. So if I start on C, the 3rd fret on the 5th string, C sharp, inharmonically equivalent, you can call it D flat. D flat and C sharp are inharmonically equivalent, meaning they're the same note, however you want to describe it. You could call it a C sharp, you could call it a D flat. You could call the next one a D, the next one is a D sharp, or you can call it an E flat. They're the same note. It's just the reason why there's 2 names for the same note that sounds like this tone is simply because there's different ways to explain music theory. And I'm going to try to bypass the need for you to understand sharps and flats right now as a way to approach music. Rather, you can play music. I'll show you a way how you can play music first and then figure out what the sharps and flats are. That's the beauty of playing guitar and the simple symmetry that it proposes. So again, unlike a keyboard player or other instruments, flutes and different things, you may need to know what are the actual notes. You may need to spell all the chords and all the scales and know scale formulas. With guitar, it's very, very simple. It actually comes down to symmetrical shapes, as I've mentioned. If these are the 6 strings on a guitar going from the bottom to low towards high, so E, A, D, G, B, E, and these are just the low E and the low A down here. This is the major scale, also known in Greek as Ionian. Now this is going to sound like crazy talk for a second. I'm going to be sharing with you what the modes are in a simpler way than I hear anybody really talking about them. Don't know why. I know a lot of sessions players who don't even think about these. I know sessions players who do and would probably dislike what I'm about to share with you now. But there's just different perspectives on the same thing, and our goal, our outcome is to help you jam, to play, to improvise, to use your instrument as a tool for your creative expression, to come up with cooler colors in your sound, and hear other things and know where it is and transcribe and transpose. So you can jam with other people. You can play the language of music faster than learning a bunch of complicated things. Now this looks really complicated. The way I'm going to explain it is really simplified. And I think you'll appreciate it, especially if you learn it my way and then start learning about it further. So this is at least a foot in the door to a complex, usually complex conversation called modes. And again, this method is to help you jam on your guitar fast. All right. So let's look at the C major scale. This is all the white keys on a piano. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then C is the octave. So we can also think of scale degrees as just numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In Eastern music theory versus Western music theory, Western music theory says do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I like the Eastern music theory syllables as we sing sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Sa, di, da, ba, ma, ga, re, sa. Alright, so what I want to show you first is the major scale. How to play it 3 notes per string. Starting on it, whether the root note, that C, is on the low E string, on it, which would be on the 8th fret, that's the note C, or the note C on the 3rd fret on the A string. Now, whichever placement you use these, I want to show you how to play the major scale. So we'll start on the E string. The 8th fret is the note C, and ultimately all I want you to know, like maybe before this, if you don't know the notes on your guitar, then familiarize yourself first, I guess, with the dots. So I have dots on the top of the neck right here that I can see, and they're also on the front of the guitar so you can see them. So the E string, the lowest string, tuned to E, the 3rd fret is the note G, the 5th fret is A, 7th is B, the 9th, that dot, is a C sharp, and then the double dot up here is an E, which is the octave of this. And it's basically from this nut to this bridge, half the distance is right there. That's why when you play lightly over the fret wire and pull your finger off, not fretting, but you can play these harmonics, that's because I lightly touched right on them, and it's the midway point between this string length. This is the beauty about strings, is that you can tune them, you can tune them to whatever you like really rapidly, and you play one string, you can play any string. So C major scale, 3 notes per string. So we'll start on the 8th fret, E string, that's C. D is 2 frets up, the 10th fret on the E string. E is 2 frets up. Now go down to the 8th fret on the 5th string, F, G, A. So it's, now if I did 3 notes per string, a whole symmetrical scale, it could look something like this. So ultimately that's a lot and you don't need to know that. What I want you to know is that 3 notes, that symmetrical shape, just because I started on the 8th fret, that's the C and that's the root. Now if I start on the 3rd fret, this is G. If I do that same skip a fret, go down 1 string, skip a fret, that little, that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these potentially, where we're going to go with this is 2 chord shapes you'll want to learn. Is going to be this E shape, which I was playing when I opened up this video. I was doing it here with it's an A, G, so this is a movable chord shape. You see the shape of my hand didn't change. Alright, so there's that E shape I want you to learn. And then you're also going to learn the A shape. So if I played, I could play in these other shapes like, I just played A, G, E. Or you can play it with the root on this same thing, I played them in 2 different positions on the neck. The same chords in just with the E shape, which most people are used to playing that, or they'll put a capo on the 4th fret and say, oh yeah, I'm playing an E chord, E minor chord, with a capo on the 4th fret, and they don't know what chord they're playing. So this is where I want you to be able to jam and have the language, vocabulary that we can jam together, and we can all know what we're doing. So that's where we're going. E shape. It's the E shape. This is an E chord when you play open strings like this, because the root note, the low E string, is the root. That's E. So if I replace this nut with my finger and just move it up to the 3rd fret, that's a G. And that's that E chord shape. That is the G major chord. Now if you keep playing it like this, and my thumb is pushing really hard against my forefinger between pinching the neck, your hand will likely wear out in this position if you keep playing chunky bar chords like that. So a Jimi Hendrix thing that he would do, that I often do a lot as well, is I'll just put the 5th string, it's the 5th scale degree of that chord, I'll put that in the bass. Or I'll put my thumb up here to hit that bass note. And then the 2 high strings, I could either bar those, which is actually a little bit of a stretch, or I could play that much of it. I don't have to play the 5th string at all. I could omit or kind of have my finger resting across the high E string and kind of mute that high string, maybe put the bass with my thumb, or I can remove my pinky and play the top 4 strings and maybe put the bass into the thumb. So those are just different fingering options, and you saw me do that in the video. If you rewind and watch the beginning again, it's chords particularly, I have the high string ringing out, but you wouldn't normally do that. If I played that in a different key, sounds kind of different, totally different in a different key like that. But here's the important piece. that shape, that movable major scale shape with the root on the E string, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Most songs that you're going to encounter, most of them, not all of them, that's where we're going to go into modes, not all of the songs, but most songs that you hear and most songs that people are playing are usually very simple. So we'll be talking about diatonic chords here in a moment. And what that is this. I can take this scale, those 6 chords, those 6 notes of the major scale, correlate, I can build chords on top of them, and that are these chords. So, off the bat, I know the 6 chords that are in G major. You know, most people don't play the 7th chord, and there's some tricks I'll show you later how you can use a 7th chord, a diminished chord, or half diminished chord, and that's later on in the program. For now, I just want you to see this. These are all the chords that you're going to really be playing with. And they're all using the E and the A shapes. Now there's a major and there's a minor shape for the E and the A shapes. For the E major, it sounds like this. For the E minor, I take up that finger. It sounds like that, a little darker, yeah? And then for the A, I could play it here, that A shape. And then the A minor, I bring this high fingered fretted note down 1 fret. That sounds a little darker and more mysterious, right, than the major. Right, so those are movable. I want you to see that I'm just playing shapes. And because I know that the shapes started on this fret, and I have a relationship with the patterns that I'm laying down for you on the board, that this is all movable. And you don't have to think. That if I want to shift from G to B flat, or let's say B major. If I shift from the, I just moved everything up here, and now here are the chords in B major. So I was playing that initially in G, then I moved it, and now I'm playing in a totally different key in B, all right? And you don't have to know what the notes are. The G and the B are at this point just confusion, because it doesn't matter what you call the notes. What we're looking at on the guitar and using the guitar as a transcriptional tool is so that you can jam fast. So no matter what key I'm in, doesn't matter. The C, D, E, F, G, that doesn't matter. What I want you to know is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and how those are relating to each other. Because that C could be replaced for any note, any of the notes in the alphabet, and they're going to have a corollary relationship with the intervals to follow in the scale. I'm going to set the guitar down and actually go through and draw some things. So, first thing I want to talk about we're going to talk about scales, chords, and arpeggios. We just talked about scales briefly, and I showed you real quick. I know where the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 scale degrees of the scale are of the Ionian scale. You see, all music theory relates back to the major or the Ionian scale. Everything, because it's natural. It's the natural scale. Pick my guitar up again real quick after I said I was going to lay it down. And so if we play a C on a C major scale, 3 notes per string, just to get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so that we can pull the root notes for the E and the A shaped chords, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know. So we're going to talk about in a minute those diatonic chords and the formula for how chords are created, and so you understand that. But I also know if the root is on the A string, I could play this here. 4, 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then go back 2 frets. So those are the roots of scale degrees 1 through 6. And you could play more. You could go 1, 2, 3. If you know the major scale on the E and A string, then those are the only strings you're going to need to know the notes on. Know that this is G, that's C. This is A, that's D. This is B, E, C sharp, F sharp, E, A, E, A. And then you can just calculate between there. You're like, okay, that's G sharp or A flat, that's A. There's A sharp or B flat, there's B. There's C. There's C sharp or D flat, there's D. So you know from just relativity, all the notes, you can figure them out on the guitar. But if you just know how to play the major scale, 3 notes per string on those 2 strings, that's going to set you up for success. Now, the other trick that I also utilize to figure out notes and play them anywhere, this is a key to unlocking the entire fretboard, is, I'll just show you first. I just played F everywhere you can play it on the fretboard. I did that because I know a couple octave shapes. I know that in standard tuning on guitar, this is E and this is E. The outside, the first and 6th strings, the high and the low strings, are both E. They're an octave apart. 2 octaves apart. That's an octave. So, all right. So one, you'll hear a lot of jazz greats do this, like George Benson and Wes Montgomery, where they will solo with octaves, and these octave shapes are movable. There's 3 primary octave shapes. You could call it 4 if you count that one. That is a shape, you know. Those are the same note, just 2 octaves apart. Okay. The other one is let's say I'm playing this G. If I skip a string and skip a fret, I play the 4th string on the 5th fret. Now that shape is movable. And what I can also do is I've got my left hand fingers, my fretting hand fingers, a bit kind of dragging over the strings so I can mute them. And then I can take this hand and do this like... So I'm really pushing down only on those two notes, and all the others are kind of muted. If I take a plectrum, a pick, and so that's what the root on the 6th string. If the root's on the 5th string, it's the same shape. You skip a string and skip a fret. So now I'm on the 5th string and the 3rd string, a fret apart. Now when you get to the other string sets, when you start, like let's say this is a G, and you know now because of these octave shapes, that's a G. The next G is going to be skip a string and skip 2 frets. So I am on the 5th fret on the D string, the 4th string, and I'm now playing the B string, the 2nd string on the 8th fret. So I'm skipping 2 frets, skipping 1 string, and that allows me to And the more you play with your major scale, especially if you play it on just 1 or 2 strings, you'll start to see the symmetry and the pattern. And then it's going to be easier for you to play it on any other single strings. So that's what I was doing there. I was kind of muting the strings and then taking that G. So let's take the C now. It's 5th fret. Oh, 5th string, 3rd fret. So here's C. Skip a fret, skip a string. Now down here we skip 2 frets and skip a string. The other shape is that this string, this note, if you skip a fret and go up to the 2nd inside string, so we're on the 2nd and the 5th string. So that's how I'm saying, hey, this is an F sharp. I don't even have to know what note it is because I know these shapes now and I can think of it later. I'm like, oh. Like, what? That's that note everywhere on the fretboard, just from that little octave hit. Cool. I feel like that was important to cover because the next component, we're going to spell chords, right? And more than spell chords, I'm going to give you the formula because, again, the actual notes can change. And for guitar, it's easy if they do change. If this is C sharp, who cares? You're just moving 1 fret up, you know? And you can figure out the notes later. So I wrote all these notes down first, but what I really want you to get here is we're going to start spelling chords. Chords, we're going to talk about triads, 7th chords, and extensions, what those are. So here we go. This major scale, as you saw, I was playing octaves of notes, so different octaves, right? So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It keeps going on and on and on. So like on a piano, you see like a lower octave, and then it's C through B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then the next octave up is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. It's all those notes, it's all the white keys on a piano. So we can still think of this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Marker wants to work, doesn't want to work. Okay, so then I'll just put them I'll put them in red. Okay, so we got 9, 11, 13. Nobody talks about 10 or 12 or 14 really. These are chord extensions, and I'm going to spell chords. I'm going to give you the formula for spelling chords. I'm going to try to find a marker real quick. Hang on just a second. Okay, well, I'm back without a blue marker. I was really hoping to have this other color. Right, blue marker to the rescue. So here's the formula for chords. Just again, disregard the note C. It could be A flat, it could be C sharp, whatever the root is, it doesn't really matter. What we want to know is these intervals and how that all works together. You see, a triad, a chord is made up a base of a chord. The most basic chord is called a triad, and it is the 1, the 3, and the 5. The first, third, and the fifth scale degrees. What does that mean? We're just skipping a note in the major scale to make a chord. The 1, also known as the root, also often depicted as R, stands for root. The 1 is the tonic, is the home, is the foundation of this scale. But also, now that we're talking about chords, it is currently the foundation of this chord. C, the 1, 3, and 5 in the major scale make this C, E, and G. That is the C major chord. The Roman numerals down here, we're going to talk about major and minor chords.